Hello and welcome to the TBR results show. So if you're here, you probably know about the TBR challenge. And if you don't, basically, me and Hannah risked our friendship over this challenge last year. And we were testing who could get the TBR down by the most number of books. It was, if you read one, it was minus a point. If you unhaul one, that's unread, it was minus a point. And if you haul a book in, it's plus 1 point. And the suspense is real because in November, we were both at minus 128. And then in December, we went dark and we couldn't see each other's scores. And me and Hannah have had to wait like 4 days before we know who's won, which is why I'm kind of getting straight to the point. And this live show is not going to be long. I think we're just going to reveal who the winner is and then discuss like how our December went. I think that's the plan.
Yeah.
Then I think that's pretty much it. But yeah, hello everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us over the course of the year. I think, Hannah, you should go first with your stuff.
Do you? Okay. So do you want me to do it where I just say my number, like my final number?
Actually, should we tell people to say who they think won? Let's see. Who do you think won? And then once we've got like votes in, then
I think whilst they're doing that, I will talk about my general reading month without giving too many spoilers. But essentially, I got the flu and was working quite a bit. So I didn't read a whole lot. I did a lot of audiobooks and kind of caught up on TBR books that way. I didn't TBR for December at all because I knew it was going to be frantic. Didn't realize I was going to be sick. Was really badly got the flu over Christmas. That was a delight. But I did set myself a couple of challenges that are things that you have done throughout the year, which did make a big difference to my reading and certainly a big difference to my TBR. But I am nervous because I know that you've been doing those challenges more thoroughly. And I will say that all those manga and all those graphic novels and everything that I bought at the start of the year, still on my TBR. When I tell you I read 2.
They're still on mine. We literally threatened each other again and again. Yeah. We're just going to read all our manga and graphic novels. No.
We didn't.
No.
So I will say, as far as that goes, yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so realistically, it should be me. But we don't want to put up with a bitter Hannah.
The thing is, do you know what? At this point, it has been really funny. Like, I love being competitive for the bit, but I'm also super competitive. I am not as sore a loser as I could be. And I feel like I will be insufferable if I win. I'm actually probably better off losing. I'll be a nicer person.
That's not good to know. To be honest, to be fair, I'm a lot of talk. I love to ham up a competition. I love to ham up a game. Yeah. And then if I win, I'm like, oh, that's nice. And if I lose, I'm like, that's nice. Yeah. But throughout it, I'm like, I will win.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, is Olivia has sent me loads of books as well. But once I've told my numbers and if it's made a split difference, I am going to say something with regards to the books that you've sent me this year, Olivia. Because, again, one of the challenges was related to that specifically.
Interesting.
Oh, you know what I find so funny about this is you have flip-flopped because you started with like, Olivia's gonna win, and then you came onto my channel and you were like, I think Hannah might win, and now you're like, I don't know.
We've been tracking the flip-flopping.
Yeah,
I think whoever wins, it's going to be a narrow margin.
I hope so. I will be so proud of us if it's actually like super close. If you have blown me out of the water, I'll be so disappointed in myself, but I'll understand. I think you also started with a bigger TBR anyway. And I know we said that wasn't necessarily relevant. At the start, it wasn't relevant because it wasn't a case of we had to get to a certain number. I do think it was relevant when it came to, again, one of the challenges that you and I set for ourselves when it comes to reading certain things, because I think you had more to work with that challenge. So yeah, I feel like everyone thinks you're going to win. I feel like
I don't know where people are getting this idea from.
Because we're competitive and you have smashed it. Like, you have been consistent all year. You've had like a couple of months where occasionally I've like pipped ahead of you. Or like, I mean, to be fair, I closed the gap on us pretty swiftly.
You did.
But then we have been kind of neck and neck the entire time. And like,
except I had to drag myself that November. Like I had to read 30 books in 30 days just to equalize. So don't put yourself down. You got ahead.
Yeah.
You got ahead.
Well, the thing is, I gave you a massively, like that first video we did where you were 54 books ahead of me just because of my book buying, just because I could not stop accepting free books, and I will never stop accepting free books. But I also bought like 30 graphic novels and mangas. That's on me. That's on me.
But
I tell you what I have done. I've bought a lot less secondhand books this year in general, which I'm kind of excited to be able to do that again next year. I do think I'm going to do something similar to this just for my own keeping track of my TBR thing, because it has brought it way down. I'm just not going to make a competition out of it because I will lose friends.
I'm not going to keep track of anything. In the year that we did this challenge, I read in total 224 books. I put £1.25 to the side every time I read a book, which accumulated, and I spent it all. I spent it all January 1st. Good. So that haul is coming, and I'm not tracking. I just need to like not set goals and limits. I feel like we've been keeping people in suspense for like.
We can talk about it now. We can talk about it now.
Go for it. Shoot.
So,
your final score.
My final number is minus 182.
Wow. Did you just unhaul everything that I sent you this year?
I didn't unhaul it. So no, there are loads of books. If you want, I will go through the stats a little bit before you reveal that you beat me. Because the way you're talking, I'm like, I'm out of
the only thing is that I know now. Nobody else.
Yeah, no one else. I suspect you've beaten me because anyway. So basically, I tried a chapter of every single book I own, and I prioritized the ones that I had hauled this year, whether I had bought them or you had given them to me. So there were quite a few that I was like, yeah, I really want to try that. And then like I didn't vibe with the writing style, or it was too similar to something I didn't like, or I didn't think it would get higher than 3 stars, like based on just a single chapter. And I kind of put myself on a time limit as well, where if I was taking longer to read certain chapters and I wasn't vibing with it, then I just got rid of it, and I was ruthless. But when I tell you, that was since I got home from Christmas. Like I spent the last week, like I promised I would. So my total stats for December. So before December, my final stats were minus 151. I DNF'd 38 books. I unhauled 8 books, which were books that I had either TBR'd multiple times this year or just no longer had an interest in, didn't even bother trying them. And I read 10 books, some of which I had hauled this year and some of which I hadn't. I think if I had read more books that I'd already owned, that number would have been higher. But yeah, so in total, even having bought a whole bunch of books this year, I still managed to lower my TBR by 182 books.
By a lot.
So regardless, I know I've lost, but that's fine. I'm still fucking proud of 182. Like, that's strong.
That is very, very strong, especially as end of November, we were at 128.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to reveal that my number is 151.
No way!
Yes.
No way!
You won.
I thought you were going to beat me. No. Genuinely.
No.
That's insanity. That's insanity. Oh, I'm so obnoxious. Yeah, look at me go.
I was literally just waiting for it. So basically what happened in December was the biggest mistake for me was the fact that we could not see each other's scores, because I should have known I'm super competitive as long as I'm playing the game. Like, as I said, if I lose, then I've lost. If I've won, then I've won. So as soon as I couldn't see your numbers, my motivation was so low. I barely read anything in December. I think I read 8 books. I hauled a bunch of books. And so I was basically just like unhauling to match my hauls and then unhauling a little bit extra, just being very choosy. But literally, I think December shot me in the foot. And if I could have seen your numbers.
Genuinely, because I had the opposite, where because I couldn't see your numbers, I was panicking because I could see, like, obviously I still follow you on Goodreads, I still follow you on Insta, I still follow you on Patreon. So I'm seeing in all these different places you talking about all these books that you've read, and I was like, and I've read nothing. I've read nothing
I
because
was
I've not
still
been well enough.
talking about November. Like I was still finishing up my November reads. Like I literally, every time I message you and you're like, oh, I'm reading this middle grade, oh, I'm reading this short book, I was like, she doesn't know I'm reading nothing. Like my nephew was right there. I did not have time to read books.
That's fair. That's fair. I was convinced when I got the flu, I was like, this is it. This is the head start that Olivia didn't even need. I was convinced you were going to hit the 200 mark. I was convinced.
So basically, I was like, I'm going to shoot for 150. And then that's that. I was like, I don't know where she's at. She's probably stress reading loads. I thought you were actually going to do a 30 books in 30 days challenge.
I had every intention of it, except do you know what is really, really stupid about this? Is I had so many short books. I was like, I had put on a specific shelf in my living room all of my short reads because I thought December, November, that's going to be my time. And then I got like November just ran away. And then December I got sick. Well, actually, end of November I got sick again in December. I was like, this is it. I've lost. And I was like resigned to that. Like genuinely, when I said about the 182 and you just went, you should play poker. Like poker is your game. Genuinely, I was like, okay, like I've resigned to the fact that I haven't won. That's okay because I'm still really proud of myself. And you should absolutely be fucking proud of yourself of 150. That's so good.
I'll take my consolidation. I'll take my consolidation.
Nah, that was strong. That is strong.
Basically, I was like, Hannah's got to go first because then everybody knows already who's won. I resigned myself at the beginning, which is why I could have a poker face. But we have so many comments here.
Emma's not happy that I won because I'm gloating. I'm being obnoxious about it.
It's the beginning of January. Anybody who wants to duplicate this challenge, I 100% recommend it. Hannah and I reduced our TBRs by over 100 books. Some people buy like 180. To be fair,
I mean, to be fair, I think anything over 100 is great because even if we don't, like, that's not, obviously I haven't read that many books this year, and I had set myself a goal of 200 books so that I could hit having read 1,000 books in 2023, which means that my target goal for 2024 is 67 because I was so close. And so it means that I'm gonna have a lot more of a chilled reading year, but it has changed how I view books because a lot of the time, I think, especially when you start BookTube, you want to take every new book. And when someone like offers you a book, it's like, yes, please. Whereas because I was like, well, I can't just take on everything because it's going to affect my numbers. It's a case of like, am I actually interested in this? So like, there's quite a few that you've sent me that are like Canongate ones or ones by BIPOC, LGBT or disability rep books that I never would have heard of had they not come from you. And the first chapters are so intriguing. They're there. And others where I'm like, this is a middle grade that I thought I wanted. You gave it to me for free because you'd already read it. And I was like, this is mediocre and I'm just not having a good time with it. But if I hadn't tried it, I wouldn't know that. And I didn't have to, like, I obviously paid postage and stuff. But those were quite easy. If I didn't feel as bad getting rid of them. And I think so in that way, it will already change my reading mentality for 2024. Having said that, I have read nothing in 2024. And not that I'm bullying myself about it because it's only the 4th. And I didn't want to start anything because I didn't want to feel bad that it wasn't going on my TBR challenge.
I literally DNF'd a book on January 1st and I was like, oh my gosh, this is annoying. I could have had one more score, but it wouldn't have made a difference. It wouldn't have made a difference. But just you gotta take all of these celebrations.
I'm so proud of us. Like, yes, I'm being obnoxious about it, but I am so proud of us.
You're allowed to be obnoxious about it while we're both being proud of us.
Yeah. So you're blaming your nephew.
100%. All those picture books I read, not on my TBR. How dare they?
Oh, bless. I was like, I should have counted those. I'd have counted those. I wouldn't have, but that, yeah. I do think, like, I think even if you do it, because I think the idea of having a buddy with it helps. What I find really funny is the fact that throughout this challenge, there's been like other things that were like, I wish we'd done this differently, because I feel like actually you probably would have beaten me if we did something that we discussed in March, so way too late to actually instigate it, which is have a -1 for reading a book, an additional -1 if you unhaul it. Because I think there's quite a few books that you will read and then you'll go, I've read that now, I can pass that forwards, and you'd have been rewarded for it. Whereas I've read this now and I'm going to keep it, even though I don't have the space for it, because I might want to reference it later. And I think that probably would have, like, I think that would have made a slightly different challenge, but probably would have been more helpful to you. And it definitely would have been more helpful to me, because I think the last couple of years I've made a point to try and only keep the 5 and 4 stars that I've read. Whereas I know this year I have kept books that were 3 stars, either because they're parts of series or because I'm hoping the series will improve. I was gonna say increase, improve, and stuff like that. So yeah, would recommend.
Absolutely recommend. I think that's also just helpful for clearing your shelves beyond like clearing your TBR. And it sounds like some of us have TBRs that need to be cleared. They need to be cleared. Yeah. I mean, my TBR is still quite big, I've got to admit. But
yeah.
We could be motivational coaches, new career path.
Yeah. I think both of us are quite motivating in general. And I feel like it's a very similar mentality as well. Like both of us are very much, sorry, Zach's just waving to me. I think it's very much a case of both of us will hype each other. And also both of us will roast each other if that's what it needs to motivate. Like, I'm not being funny. When we filmed that initial video of like, I was 54 behind, that hurt. That motivated me. But also being only 6 books away from meeting you in the middle for that second one, that motivated me in a different way. Like, that hyped me, because I was like, I'm so close and I can easily find 6 books to unhaul, and I don't regret unhauling any of the books that I've DNF'd or unhauled this year. There's not a single one where I'm like, oh, maybe I should give that a second go, or like I'd like to retry that or anything. And I've also found there are certain genres that I used to adore that I'm just not vibing with anymore, and this was a great opportunity for me to be like, right, get shot, get rid, and then we'll move on to books that I am actually interested in.
I absolutely agree. And I do find our chats were so funny. Like, we could start the day and be like, look how far ahead I am. And then you'd be like, oh, I feel a bit bad about it. I'm like, no, you're doing great. And
the moment one of us was even slightly nasty, like, it's one thing like making a joke of it. I think the moment one of us was like, oh, I'm having like a really bad reading month, or I'm not feeling great, the other one was like, that's okay, you got this. Which is so funny to me, because then we'd meet up and be like, ha, I'm winning.
Just so you know. But yeah, it's been a very fun challenge. Would you do this again? This is the question.
I would give it a couple of years, but I would do it again. I wouldn't do it straight away next year. I don't think I could do it next year, because having cleared so many in the last 2 weeks, I don't have enough on my I know for a fact if we were to do it again this year, you would find it easier to find books to DNF and unhaul than I would.
That's true.
Whereas I think if we did it in like 2026 as like a reunion tour, I would have accumulated more books. Like, I will have fallen back into bad habits. I would absolutely recommend everyone do it. And we could do it for like a month. Like, I would do maybe like October, November, December, like the end of the year.
No.
But I don't think I could do a whole year one again.
Hannah, we are both exhausted October, November, December. There's Gothtober, and all of you run a business during Christmas. What are you talking about?
I just meant more like in the way that we've done it here, where we've started the new year with a fresh TBR because we've cleared so many things. If we were different people, if we lived different lives, Olivia, it would be great.
I was like, what are you saying?
No, not for us. Not for right now.
I would do it again, but I'm not sure I would do it for a year. I'm not gonna lie. By October, I was ready to be finished. Like,
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think it's exhausting. It is exhausting.
I could do half a year. Book buying ban, a year is fine. TBR challenge, like 6 months is ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the scheming that's happening. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, we didn't include Kindle TBR for a reason.
No. Or my audiobook one. Like that was never no.
What's your ideal TBR number?
I do think it's probably around the 200 mark, because that is essentially one Billy bookcase and a couple of extras. That if it fits on my Billy bookcase, I want to have just one bookcase that is TBR, because the issue that I'm now having is I've run out of space with the books that I've read, and I don't really want to get rid of loads of them, but I like being able to recommend new books specifically for Gothtober every year. So I'm like, I don't want to get rid of these great spooky books because I will probably reread them, but I also don't have space for other ones. So I try and keep my TBR not necessarily to a number, but to a shelf, just so that it's like, this is my TBR shelf. Having said that, something else that I'm really excited to do this year that I couldn't do last year without, and I think something probably that caught you out a few times, is I want to reread books that I know are 5 stars.
Yeah, me too.
The only 5 stars I reread this year was Poet X, and it made me cry a second time. It's great, but I want to be able to do that again. I've got so many books that I'm like, I need to reread this because I read this at the very, very start of my booktube career. Do I still love it? Is it still 5 stars? And if not, I let it go, and then I will have more space. So yeah,
I did miss rereading. I don't think I realized that I didn't think I did much rereading until I think somewhere like halfway through the year I was like, oh, I just want to reread all of Twilight. I was like, oh, I really want to reread something. And then I was like, oh, my TBR challenge. So I think the things that I'm missing is rereading. And then secondly, I really wanted to read a lot of sci-fi and fantasy. And I was just like, it's over 400 pages. I just can't prioritize that over the other books.
Yeah.
And then at some point I got a bit fed up and I did it anyway. Like I read Dune. It just happened. But I did read a lot more like romance that I'm happy to stay up all night late to finish, and just shorter books. Yeah. So I'm really hoping, the only book I've read this year so far is like under 100 pages, but I'm hoping to read more fantasy and sci-fi this year again because I miss it. I miss it a lot.
But the comment about a TBR being, under or minus 225, whatever, being obscene, I will never ever forget talking to my sister-in-law, who was a teacher at the same time or that I had just started booktube, and she was like, we were in the car, we're in the queue to McDonald's, and she turned to me and she was like, oh, you wouldn't believe, my TBR is getting out of hand. And I was like, oh really? And she was like, yeah, like I just have so many books and I'm never going to get to them, I'm never going to finish them all, and I keep buying more. And I was like, oh my God, like, yeah, I feel you. I'm in the exact same position. How many books are on your TBR? And she went, 11. And I was like, seriously? Like, ignoring the fact that on a good reading month, that's my average. Yeah. Ignoring that, I'd kill to have 11 books. No worries.
I feel like 11 would scare me as well. Like as a mood reader, I'm like, that covers 2 moods. That's it. I've got 2 choices. Not like technically I have 11, but I'm like.
But I know what you mean, because I realized something, and we talked about this when we did the mood reader tag, is I love setting a TBR of like 20 to 30 books and then reading 10 of them, because it just condenses down the TBR. But I also like changing those 30 books every month. If I only had those 30 books,
it would be
like
difficult. I think my ideal TBR is around 200. Like it sounds like a lot, but if you read every genre, it's not that much. Like it's not that much, but you could have like 20.
That's like 10 per genre, right? Like that's or like 10 per age per genre. So like that's a decent amount, I think.
I mean, some people reached TBR 0 this year, which Daniela did, and we said TBR 0 means you would have won. So
that's genius. That's incredible. That's incredible. Could never be me.
Maybe our next challenge is who can reach TBR 0.
Okay, can we do it in a couple of years when I've made my TBR smaller? When I've got 11 books, we'll do it.
Yeah. So see you in 2028?
Yes. Fantastic.
Yeah, let's see these. I don't think we've got much more to say. Like now we're just chatting.
Yeah.
Even if you have like 11 books, if you're not in the mood, you can spare the moment by a new ebook. Or see, these are the people who have reached or gotten close to TBR 0 and they're like, it's not that scary down there, which
it's not that scary. Thing is, I remember like for ages, I only had 2 shelves of books that I hadn't read and 2 Billy bookcases of books that I had read. And when I tell you that has exploded, it's not even that I quite like the idea of a 0 TBR on the 1st of January. A 0 TBR in August, I don't know what I would do with my time, because I would just spend all that time. I feel like I always second guess what book I'm going to start the year with anyway, right? So the reason I know exactly what book I want to start with is because of the kind of clearing as many as I could by reading a chapter. And it was the one where I was like, this is the one that, like, if I had to leave the house and take a book with me, this is what I would take with me. It's what I'm in the mood for right now. So it will probably come out quite good. Even if it's just like a mid book, I'm having a good time with it. But if I had to do that mid-year as well, because I had no more books, but then I was also like, I want to buy, but no, too stressful. I'd rather just have my comfy TBR. Not so, like, it was really overwhelming. The reason I was so excited to do this in the first place is because I'd hit like the 400 mark. And I was like, that's a joke. Like, that's too many. And when you tell people that you have that many books on your TBR, they do look at you funny.
Yeah.
Whereas I think, 200 or 200 under feels sensible. It's a bookcase.
And sometimes I also think back to, I think I've talked to Charlotte a lot about this, which is like, where did I used to not have a TBR that was 200 and I survived. And to be fair, I read less, but I remember when I started my book blog and I think I saw somebody else's TBR that was around the maybe 200 mark. And I was like, I would love to have a shelf like that. And I think that I remember that blog post and I remember where it comes from. And I know that that's not a good place for it to come from. And it's probably like changed now and it's different. And I'm a different person. Like I was probably 14-ish. So like it's definitely different now. But I know that's where it started, which is why I always examine like why I'm here. But have I done much about why I'm here other than this challenge? No. So things to think about, but not a solution I've found, especially, again, living in London, working in publishing, just doesn't make it easier. So
that's fair. I've just spotted my friend Ian has asked what a Billy bookcase is, and that Books and Bargains has explained. But essentially, it is the bookcase from IKEA that I have, and they're kind of not the standard in BookTube, but they are probably one of the most popular bookshelves because they are taller and wider, and they are built to kind of have like a long wall, which is why we like them so much, because it makes us feel like we've got a big fancy library, and they're not as expensive as built-in ones.
At some point, I'll like a tier list of the best bookshelves you can possibly buy.
Oh my god, yes! I'm so here to make that content. I don't know if you heard that, but Zach suggested that I make a tier list of the best bookshelves.
Oh, wait, to buy, as in like bookshelf.
Because I'm here for that, because I bought some from Homebase and they were rubbish. They were so short and like lightweight.
So they're like an F tier.
Yeah.
Bookshelf.
Yeah.
Whereas the Billy bookcase is like
top tier.
A or S tier.
Top tier. Yeah.
I've started to dislike Billy bookcase, you know.
Apparently there is something better. Who knows?
I just don't like the holes in the side. And I've seen people DIY fill them in and paint them over. But now I really want a bookcase. I'm not going to get a bookcase anytime soon, but I would love a bookcase where it's just bookcase. Like it's like a set size, which is annoying for graphic novels, but I've started to not like the aesthetic when you take a photo from the side. That's so picky though. Like
no, I understand it. And like the thing is, it's that convenience thing of being able to move your shelves up and down. So when I started getting more hardbacks because I could afford to, because obviously they're cheaper if you're buying them in from a distributor than from a bookshop, I was like, I need to drop all my shelves lower so that they can actually fit. Whereas a standard one is a standard one. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. But it looks nicer when you don't have the holes. So yeah, no, I'm with you. I do agree. I know you can also get like stickers and stuff that you can put so that you don't notice them. But I do find it so frustrating. And I have found myself cutting my photos. So like you can't see like the edge of it.
Yeah, it happens. I have to take a moment to say 23 is still amazing. Like,
yeah,
really
it's
doing
strong.
good. Keeping it to max 50. If it doesn't fit on the shelf, you can't buy it. I think that's smart.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to implement, now that I've spent my accumulated money to reward myself this challenge, I'm only buying books that I've already read this year for the rest of the year. Not a hard buying ban, but not a growing your TBR anymore.
Smart
way of doing it.
I think I'm here for that. Yeah.
I think also if you're in a foreign country where English is not the first language, libraries are much harder to take full advantage of. Words are leaving. I'm losing words.
Yeah. And I think it can be overwhelming, like at different places, even if it's the same person. Like I was never overwhelmed by my TBR looking at it, and then I looked at it in numbers on a spreadsheet and updated it and was like, this is too much. I'm never going to work my way through this. So yes. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. It's like, it's too much pressure. It does get overwhelming. The reason I like having my TBR trolley, which again, for those, Ian, is essentially a hobbycraft trolley, really cute purple, that I put the books that I'm reading that month in. And therefore I know that I don't have to scan my shelves for whatever it is I'm going to read next. It's in this trolley. That makes it less overwhelming. So I have lots of options, but then I've narrowed it down. That makes it easier for me without the panic of being like, I don't have anything to read. And then if I don't want to read anything in the trolley, it's time for a new TBR. It's time to do something else.
Time for it to go. I discovered that I'm petrified of those sliding ladders as someone who's scared of heights.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So, I always forget that. Yeah. They've got them in Toppings in Bath, and every time, like, they don't really slide. You have to come off them to like move them across. So if you want to get stuff. But they're a vibe. They're so beautiful. I want one. My brother bought me for my birthday last year a poster that said, "Am I happy? No, I don't have a sliding ladder in my bookshelf." And I'm like, I'm here for it.
I think I was in Edinburgh at Toppings again, and they had those, and the book I wanted was on the top shelf. And I looked at the book and then at the ladder, and then I was like, nah, I'm not going to buy the book. I'm just going to leave it.
That's fair. You should find someone like me that's just like, I'll climb the thing for you.
I think I would have asked like one of the shop people or something, but it was like one of the last bookshops on my bookshop hop, and my introvert battery was at an all-time low, and I'm absolutely the kind of person who won't talk to someone if I'm too tired.
That's fair.
Trying to not buy hardbacks so you can have all the shelves of one height.
Yeah, fair.
Pretty valid. I think we're pretty much going to end here because it's been half an hour and I don't think we have much more to add. What I will say, though, is if you've enjoyed this challenge and you enjoy bookish content and you're here and are not subscribed to Hannah, what are you doing? Please subscribe to her channel. It's great. And if you just enjoyed me and Hannah being competitive and the shenanigans that we got up to together, as we are surprisingly still friends after this challenge.
I know. I'm as amazing as you are.
Surprise. We'll probably end up doing more collaborations at some point. And there's always Goftober with Tish as well.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Stick around. Have a good evening all, and see you later.